Thomas Jollie was an English dissenter, a minister ejected from the Church of England for his beliefs. Biography. Thomas Jollie was born at Droylsden, near Manchester, on 14 September 1629, and baptised on 29 September at Gorton Chapel, then in the parish of Manchester. His father, Major James Jollie, was Provost Marshal General of the forces in Lancashire, and was nominated an elder for Gordon in the first Manchester classis in the presbyterial arrangement for Lancashire, but did not act. Being an independent, he married Elizabeth Hall, widow of Droylsden, whose daughter by the former marriage was wife of Adam Martindale. Thomas Jollie entered Trinity College, Cambridge, in 1645, 2 years earlier than Oliver Hayward, with whom he formed a lifelong friendship. He does not seem to have graduated. First ministry. Having received a unanimous call from the parishioners of Altham, a chapelry in the parish of Whalley, Lancashire, he settled there in September 1649. He formed at Altham despite opposition a gathered church, and ministered there with growing repute. Excommunication was practiced in his church with no respect of persons. In 1655 Janet, daughter of Robert Cunliffe, a member of Parliament for Lancashire, was excommunicated for promising marriage to a papist against the advice of the church. Arrests. Jollie was one of 21 Lancashire ministers, Presbyterian and Independent, who met at Manchester on 13 July 1659 and subscribed 10 articles of a proposed accommodation between those two bodies. A further meeting was to have been held in the following September, but all such measures were broken off by the rising under George Booth, 1st Baron Delamere. After the Restoration, Jollie got into trouble through not using the prayer book. Arrested on a warrant from 3 deputy lieutenants, he was discharged on taking the oath of supremacy. A second arrest was followed by an attempt to forcibly prevent his preaching. At length he was cited to the Bishop's Court at Chester, and after 3 appearances was condemned to suspension. His suspension was delayed by the death of his bishop, Henry Fern, on 16 March 1662, but was carried into effect so as to prohibit him from preaching on 17 August. On the following Sunday the Uniformity Act came into force, and Jollie resigned his living. After a time he moved to Heeley, in Burnley, Lancashire. Here in 1663 he was placed under arrest on suspicion, and was shortly afterwards committed to custody at Skipton, on the charge of keeping a conventicle. Soon after his release he was arrested while riding in Lancashire, and confined in York Castle for some months in the winter. In 1664 he was seized at a conventicle and imprisoned for 11 weeks in Lancaster Castle. In 1665 he was again under arrest. He had a friend in the Presbyterian, Lady Houghton, whom he frequently visited at Houghton Tower, Lancashire. In 1667 he bought a farmhouse of Windhouses, at the foot of Pendle Hill, near Clitheroe, in the parish of Whalley, Lancashire. In 1669 he was committed to jail at Preston for 6 months, under the 5 Miles Act, for preaching near Altham. On the indulgence of 1672 he took out licenses for 4 preaching places at and about Windhouses. An ingenious arrangement of the staircase at Windhouses enabled him to evade arrest while preaching there after the revocation of indulgence. He was committed, however, for preaching at Sladeburn, near Clitheroe, in 1674, and was fined £20. In 1684 he was brought before Chief Justice Jeffreys at Preston for keeping conventicles, was bound over to the next assizes, and was then discharged by Baron Atkins. At the Revolution he built a meeting house at Windhouses adjoining his residence. In 1689 an additional building was licensed at Sparth, and another later at Newton in Bowland, both in the parish of Whalley. Richard Dugdale. On 28 April 1689, Jollie took up the case of Richard Dugdale, the alleged demoniac of Shorey, near Clitheroe. He maintained that Dugdale's was as real a possession as any in the Gospels. With the aid of over 12 non-conforming divines, including Richard Frankland and Oliver Heywood, he tried exorcism by prayer and fasting. The young man's recovery was slow. The religious meetings began on the 8th of May 1689, and were not effective till the 24th of March 1690. In a tract of 1697, Jollie ascribed his cure to the prayers of the nonconformists. Zachary Taylor, vicar of Ormskirk, son of an ejected minister of the same name, wrote 2 tracts to expose the popery and knavery of this business. John Carrington, Presbyterian minister at Lancaster, who had taken part in the exorcism, came forward in its defense. Frankland and Heywood were significantly silent. Happy Union. Though Jollie was a strong independent and a great stickler for his principles in the matter of ordination, he joined the Happy Union of Presbyterians and Congregationalists, which was not introduced into Lancashire till the 3rd of April 1693, when it had already been dissolved in London. At the 3rd meeting he was appointed, with Henry Newcombe, the Manchester Presbyterian, to conduct the correspondence for the county. At the 10th meeting he preached the sermon. According to Calamy, he drew up a large essay for Father Concord amongst evangelical reforming churches. Death and family. Thomas died at Windhouses on the 14th of March 1703, and was buried on the 18th of March at Eltham. He was 3 times a widower before he reached the age of 30. His 4th wife died the 8th of June 1675, aged 42. He had 2 sons, Timothy and Samuel. His portrait hangs in Mansfield College, Oxford, the university's first nonconformist college. Among his collateral descendants is William Boland, the current 16th Lord of Boland. Publications. He published The Shorey Demoniac, 1697. The tract appears to have been drafted by Jollie and expanded by Carrington. The preface, signed by Thomas Jollie and 5 other divines, gives an account of the mysterious loss of the true copy. Hence some particulars in this print were subsequently repudiated as inauthentic. A Vindication of the Shorey Demoniac, by T. J. 1698. Curious extracts from an abstract of his church book are given by Hunter Nightingale. Nightingale says the original is lost, but the portion of it from 1670 to 1693 was recovered by Mr. George Neilson of Glasgow.